Black America. John Lewis here again with X Known, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 6 of XCast, Voices of the Unforgotten. And today we'll be talking about Henry Box Brown, When a Man Becomes a Package. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. Henry Brown was born into a world where his body already belonged to someone else. He entered life around 1815, enslaved in Louisa County, Virginia, not as a son, not as a citizen, not as a future, but as property. There was no birth certificate that mattered, no official record of love, just ownership. From the moment he could walk, Henry's value was measured in labor. He worked the fields, he moved freight, he obeyed voices that were not his own. And like so many enslaved children, he lived with the fear most adults never experience. The fear that everyone you love can be taken away without a warning and with permission of the law. As a young man, Henry was sent to Richmond, Virginia, one of the most active slave trading hubs in the country. He worked in a tobacco factory by day, but his real life was outside the factory walls. There he met a woman he loved. Her name was Nancy. They were legally forbidden to marry, but enslaved people learned how to build a family even when the law denied it. Henry and Nancy made a life anyway. They built love quietly. They had 3 children. For a brief moment, Henry tasted something enslaved people were never promised: stability, routine, and hope. And then one morning, that world ended. Henry was away at work when his master sold his wife and children. No advance notice, no chance for goodbye, no appeal. When Henry returned home, the space where his family once existed was empty, gone. He ran to the slave yard. He begged. He searched crowds. He tried to see his children one last time, but the wagons were already moving. His wife and babies were driven south to a world of harsher labor and slimmer chances of survival. This moment broke him, and this moment reassembled him. Later, Henry would say this: "My heart had been chained and dragged through hell." Enslaved people understood that family separation was not accidental. It was strategy. Breaking bonds weakened rebellion. Isolation made survival individual instead of collective. The system did not just want your body. It wanted to unmake your reasons to live. Henry moved through days after that like a ghost. He worked, he breathed, but inside something hardened, and then something unforgivable formed: an idea. Not escaping the usual sense, not running, not hiding, not sneaking through woods. Henry began to think in terms of transport. Boxes moved across cities every day. Crates crossed borders without question. Packages were tracked by weight, not by soul. The world trusted boxes more than it trusted black bodies. And Henry realized something almost unbearable in its simplicity. If he could become a package, he might survive the journey. It took months for that idea to stop sounding like madness. He began quietly searching for allies. He found a sympathetic white man named Samuel Smith, a storekeeper, and a free black man named James Caesar Anthony. Together, they designed a wooden crate, 3 feet long, 2 feet wide, 2.5 feet deep, just large enough to curl inside. Inside that box, 1 small hole for air, a single water container, and a few biscuits. No padding, no light, no guarantee of survival. Henry would be sealed inside and shipped from Richmond to Philadelphia, a free state. It would take over 27 hours by wagon, by train, by steamboat, upside down at times, crushed by cargo at others. One mistake would mean suffocation. One delay would mean death. But for Henry, the box was not the greatest risk he had ever taken. Living without his family was. On March 23, 1849, Henry climbed into the box. They nailed it shut. Darkness closed in like a lid. On the outside, the crate was labeled, "This side up, with care." The world would not honor that label. As the crate was hauled and tossed and loaded, Henry felt himself flip. Blood rushed to his head. His neck bent under his own weight, and he nearly lost consciousness. At one point, someone turned the box upside down and left him there. The air thinned. Panic rose. Henry later said he felt his life rushing out through his eyes, and yet he did not scream. He did not pound. He didn't panic, because panic burns oxygen, and oxygen was time. Every breath was an argument with death. When the nails went in, Henry Brown disappeared from the world. No witnesses, no record of where his body really was, just wood, weight, and motion. The first joke came as the box was lifted into a wagon. The second came when it was dropped. Inside the crate, Henry folded his knees into his chest. His spine curved until pain became constant. He could not stretch. He could not straighten. Every breath was caught between boards that did not care who he was. At first, he tried to pray. Then the air began to thin. The crate flipped. Blood rushed into his head so fast he saw white behind his eyes. His tongue swelled. His heartbeat thundered in his skull. The box was upside down, and he could not move to correct it. He could only endure. Minutes felt like hours. He later said he believed his eyes would burst from their sockets. On the outside of that box, men laughed. They tossed it like it held nothing living. They leaned other crates against it. Heavy freight crushed against Henry's ribs. The pressure stole his breath in shallow shivers. At one point, someone sat on the box. Henry could feel the weight of another human being on his chest. A man, unaware that a man was trapped beneath him. The irony almost killed him. At a train depot, the crate was set down hard again. Workers argued about where to load it next. The box lingered in stillness for long minutes. Stillness in a sealed crate is more dangerous than motion. Motion still moves air. Stillness lets it die. Henry's water ran low. Each swallow was measured like currency. His biscuits softened with humidity inside the box. He forced himself to chew slowly. Panic burns oxygen. Hunger can wait. Breath cannot. Then the steamboat. The sound of water slapped against wood beneath him. The engine roared above. Steam hissed. The crate shifted again. Henry flipped once more onto his head. This time he lost consciousness. For an unknown stretch of the journey, he existed only as a body pretending to be an object. He woke to pain so intense, it erased time. He couldn't tell whether minutes or hours had passed. His limbs were numb. His mouth tasted like copper. He whispered to himself in the dark. Not prayers, not promises, just reminders. Breathe, wait, and endure. When the boat docked at the crate and the crate was transferred again, someone noticed it was labeled, "This side up." Too late. They corrected his position at last. Blood drained from his head. The relief was so sharp enough it felt like injury. By now, Henry had been sealed inside the crate for more than a full day. The final leg of the journey brought the box to Philadelphia, into the hands of abolitionists waiting on the other end of fate. Inside the meeting room of the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society, The crate was set down gently for the first time since it had left Virginia. Hands hovered over the lid. Voices whispered. Someone asked if the package had arrived safely. Then the nails were pried loose. Light cracked the darkness. Fresh air flooded in so suddenly, Henry gasped and nearly fainted. After more than 27 hours inside that box, his body did not trust oxygen anymore. And then he spoke the first free words of his life. "How do you do, gentlemen?" Men laughed. Men cried. Men fell silent in awe. Henry Brown stood upright in Philadelphia, in a free state, sealed out of bondage by wood, will, and impossible courage. He fell to his knees, not because he was weak, but because gravity finally had permission to touch him again. But Henry's freedom came with immediate knowledge. His wife and children were still enslaved. His body had escaped. His family had not. That truth would never soften. Word of his escape spread faster than any shipment ever could. Some called it genius. Some called it lunacy. Slaveholders called it theft. A man had stolen himself. Within weeks, Henry became known as Box Brown, a name born of survival, a name meant to reduce him to the object he had used to defy objectification. But he accepted it. He reclaimed it, because that box had carried more than a body. It had carried proof. Proof that even the most tightly controlled system still leaks. Proof that invention lives inside desperation. Proof that when people are denied every door, they will build a wall into a doorway. Henry didn't just escape slavery. He exposed its stupidity. A system so confident in its control failed to imagine that a man would outthink it instead of outrun it. And that terrified it. Henry Brown didn't step out of that box into peace. He stepped into visibility. And visibility, for a formerly enslaved man who had humiliated an entire system with ingenuity, was dangerous. For a short time in the North, Henry became living evidence. He stood beside that crate that had carried him. He told the story with his own mouth. People came in crowds, not always out of compassion, sometimes out of disbelief. They needed to see him with their own eyes to accept that a man had shipped himself out of slavery and lived. But in 1850, everything changed again. The United States passed the Fugitive Slave Act, a law that ripped the thin veil off so-called free states. It made every state a hunting ground. It forced citizens to assist in the capture of escaped people. It punished anyone who helped freedom. Henry was no longer safe anywhere in the country that had enslaved him. So he did something unthinkable again. He left America. He crossed the ocean and settled in Great Britain. There, Henry transformed his survival into art. He became an abolitionist performer. He told the story of the box through lectures, songs, visual exhibitions, and painted panoramas that unrolled scenes of enslavement and escape. For the first time in his life, Henry controlled his image. No master, no bill of sale, no auction block. Only voice, only narrative, only presence. But even freedom didn't restore what slavery had stolen from him. His wife and children were never reunited with him. The box had carried his body to freedom. It had not carried his family. That loss lived inside every performance, every retelling, every applause that fell quiet when audiences remembered what had been taken in exchange for the miracle they were witnessing. Over the years, Henry moved again to Canada, then back to England. He aged into obscurity the way so many black truth-tellers do. No monument followed him. No national apology met him. No official record honored him the way it honored the men who chained him. Even his death is poorly documented. But here's what cannot be erased. Henry Box Brown proved that freedom is not always a sprint. Sometimes it's a calculation. Sometimes it's invention under pressure. Sometimes it is stillness instead of speed. And sometimes it is the willingness to become an object long enough to stop being owned. His life pierced the lie America depended on, that enslaved people were passive. Henry didn't wait. He engineered. He did not run the system. He mailed himself through it. His legacy isn't the box. It's the message inside it. That imagination cannot be fully chained. That dignity leaks through every system. That survival itself can be rebellion. That escape is not always loud. Sometimes it is silent, sealed, folded into darkness, and unstoppable. So go to xdome.com right now. Read through that mission statement again. Look through the Share the Knowledge page. Copy and repost that link because it's on us to share it because they won't. I'll say it again. Go to xdome.com right now. Read the mission statement. Look through the Share the Knowledge page. Copy and repost that link because it's on us to share it because they won't. And then wear the legacy. Let people ask you what the crest means and tell them. Tell them about Henry Box Brown. Tell them how he mailed himself out of bondage when running meant death. Tell them how imagination defeated ownership. Tell them how survival became strategy. Tell them why he still matters. Tell them we will not forget. This is X-Known for the people they tried to erase but couldn't.